Okay, so we're starting chapter 2 today. So starting with simplifying algebraic expressions. And we're going to just identify terms. We're going to identify like terms and identify unlike terms. So a term is a number or the product of a number and variables raised to powers. So the numerical coefficient of a term is the numerical factor, and the numerical coefficient of 3x would be 3. So if you look at the term, so if your term is 7, then the coefficient is 7. But if your term is 5x cubed, the coefficient is 5. Negative 4xy squared, the coefficient is negative 4. And then here we have z squared. So since we have z squared, there is the assumed 1, so therefore your coefficient is 1. All right, so in example 1, if we identify the numerical coefficient of each term, so since negative 6 is the number in front, the negative 6 is your coefficient. 27 is the numerical coefficient here. And then again, since we just have the negative, then that means there is the assumed 1, so your coefficient is negative 1. Here, your coefficient is 1 over 19 because of that assumed 1. So you just move the x over, it's like 1 over 19 x. So therefore, the 1 over 19 is your numerical coefficient. So our like terms, oops, so let's move this up a little bit. So like terms, so all of these are considered like terms because they have matching variables. Here, these are all matching variables as well. So you have your x squared, x squared, x squared, y, y, y. So those are all alike. As far as unlike terms go, these are unlike. Even though the coefficient matches, the term does not, because this is x to the 1 and this is x squared, so they do not match. Here it's a little more obvious because it's just 3 completely different letters. All right, so now we're going to determine whether they're alike or unlike. So x squared and x cubed are unlike. Then you have x squared, y squared, x squared, y squared, x squared, y squared. So these are like terms. AB and BA, remember the commutative property. Doesn't matter if you're going forward or backwards. Multiplying is multiplying. So those are like terms. Even though they look different, they're still alike. So make sure you're careful when you're looking at these. And then here we have x cubed and y cubed. Even though the exponent is the same, the variable is different. So that makes them unlike. So combining like terms. So simplifying the sum or difference of like terms is called combining like terms. This is a really popular thing for algebra. So we're going to simplify the expression by combining like terms. So here, since x squared and x squared are alike, then all you have to do is look at the number in front. So 6 plus 7 is 13. And then you just bring the term over with you. Here, I have 19 and negative 30. Since they both have the term xy, then xy will be part of my answer. Since 19 minus 30 is negative 11, then your answer is negative 11 xy. And then down here, notice you have an x to the 1 and an x squared. Well, this makes them unlike terms. So since they're unlike terms, then you don't have to worry about combining them because you can't combine unlike terms. So to combine like terms, combine the numerical coefficients and multiply the rest by the common variable factors. So simplify each expression. So I know that the 7y and the 2y are like terms. The 6 and the 10 are like terms. So I would put them together. So the 7 and the 2. So 7 plus 2 is 9y. And then 6 plus 10 is 16. So then your answer is 9y plus 16. You cannot put these two together because they're not alike anymore. Down here, since I've got a 0, and the way I do this, I always think, okay, here's a whole number, here's a whole number, Here's a whole number. Those three can go together. And then I've got negative 2x plus x. So if you regrouped everything so that they're together, so the negative 2 and the 1 belong with the x, and then your terms. Obviously, the 0 is not going to matter. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, and then 4 minus 11 is negative 7. So remember, you have this is negative 1x, and you don't need the 1, so then your answer is just negative x minus 7. So now we're going to use the distributive property here. So to use the distributive property, remember we talked about sharing, so negative. So you got 4 times 5x and 4 times 7. So if you wrote those 4 times 5 and then 4 times 7, then you get 20x plus 28. Here you would distribute the negative 3 to the x. Then you would distribute it to the 0.5y, then you would distribute it to the negative 7. So you would get negative 3 times the x plus, and there's a typo there. So let me fix that. I didn't catch that. So let's scratch this. All right, so I'm just going to rewrite this. So we got negative 3 times x. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 0.5 is going to be negative. And so you got negative 3 times 0.5. So negative 3 times 0.5 is negative 1.5. So this is negative 1.5y. And then negative 3 times 7 is positive 21. So this would be your final answer when you're done, simply because nothing is alike. So you can't combine anything else. So that would be your final answer. Well, they have the typo there. This should be negative. So negative 3x minus 1.5y plus 21. So major typo in this example. Sorry about that. All right, so here we go. So if I distribute the 4 to the 4x, I get 16x. If I distribute the 4 to the negative 6, I get negative 24. The 20 is outside the parentheses, so you just bring it down. Now these two are alike. This one is not, so I'm just going to bring it down. So negative 24 plus 20 is negative 4. And then there's your final answer. In this next example, since the 5 is outside the parentheses, it's not going to have any relevance on the distributing. So I'm going to bring it down. So I have this negative 1, so that's like negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. And then the 6x is not part of the parentheses either. So now I have a 5 minus 9, and then I have negative 3x plus 6x. So I think, okay, 6x minus 3. 6x minus 3x. So that's 3x. And then I have 5 minus 9. So 5 minus 9 is negative 4. So there's your final answer. And I can, oops, move that. So here's the answer. So there's your 16x minus 4. And there's your 3x minus 4 there. All right, so here I'm going to distribute the negative 3. So that's negative 21x. Distribute the negative 3. Distribute the negative. So that's minus 4x. And distribute this negative, which is positive 2, because a negative times a negative is positive. So negative 21 minus 4 is negative 25x. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So negative 25x minus 1 is your final answer. And that's how that would work. This one, the 8, is not touching the parentheses, so it's just 8 plus. So 11 times 2y is 22y. 11 times negative 9 is negative 99. Since the 8 and the negative 99 are just plain old numbers, I can combine them. 22y is by itself, so it's going to be 22y minus 91. And there it is written a little more neater. All right, so now we're going to write word phrases. So this is where your word problems come in. So write each phrase as an algebraic expression and simplify it if possible. Let x represent the unknown. So 7 times the sum of a number and 2. So they're saying 7 times, so 7 times the sum. The sum means you have to add two things together. So I'm going to add a number and 2. So times a number and 2. So anytime you're multiplying by a parenthesis, you don't have to have your times symbol there. So if you think about 7 times the sum of a number and 2, so that means 7x, 7 times 2. So you get 7x plus 14. So this would be your final answer. So 7 times the sum. So if it said 7 times a number and 2, so if it said 7 times a number and 2, it would look like 7 times a number and 2. And then that's different than 7 times the sum. So anytime it's talking about 7 times the sum, that means you're going to have to add two things together, then multiply by what is on the outside. So it's a little bit different. So 3 times the sum of a number and 6. So since I have the sum of a number and 6, that is x plus 6. And then 3 times that, so 3 times that. So you're going to wind up with 3 times x plus 6. And then if you distribute that, 3x plus 18. So this would be your final answer after distributing the 3. Right, the sum of a number and 2 divided by 5. So the sum of a number and 2, so that means you've got to add a number plus 2, and then you're going to divide by 5. So it's just going to look like this, and you're going to be done. There's nothing else you can do with that. Cannot be simplified any further, so you're just done. All right, and that is all. So your homework will be 2.1 on My Math Lab, and I will see y'all on Thursday.